None of us like wasting money on a guitar that turns out to be crummy. That's why today I'll be sharing 8 tips what to look out for when you're buying a guitar. Hello and welcome to another video with me, Elmo J. Karjalainen. It's good to have you along. You can call me this guy if my name is tricky to pronounce. It's a terrible feeling when you've really looked forward to getting a new guitar. You think it's going to be the ultimate axe and it turns out to be firewood basically. So today I'll try to help you with 8 tips on what to look out for when buying a new guitar. Number 1, try before you buy. I can't stress this enough. Guitars are individuals because they're made of wood. They will all be different. Now, if you can't try before you buy, if you're buying online for instance, make sure you can send it back if you're not happy with it. But it's really a good idea to try before you buy. Now, if you're a beginner, you might not be sure what to look out for, but we'll get to that later in the video. But just as a starting point, always try before you buy. Number 2, and this might save you a lot of money, because most of us, I think, buy new guitars. And that comes with some degree of risk. So buy second-hand. Now, what is that risk? Well, it's, like I said, these are all made of wood, and often, especially on cheap guitars, the wood hasn't dried out completely, and when it dries, you can get different sorts of issues. Fret sprout, which is where the frets stick out here, or even worse, when the frets pop out a bit and you get buzz, and all sorts of other issues. And the solution to that is to buy second-hand guitars. Now, that comes with its own risks, but those guitars will already have had their infancy issues, and if the previous owner is in any way informed, he or she will have those issues corrected. So you will get something that will not develop those issues anymore. If you're buying online, how do you know? Well, check the seller's rating, for instance on eBay. Check to see that the seller has a good rating on eBay. Other sites have similar things, I assume. And again, try before you buy. Check to see certain things that we'll get to later in the video, or be sure that you can send it back. Now, this buying secondhand gear, like I said, is great because the guitar will already have had its infancy issues, and you save money when you buy a secondhand instrument compared to a new one. The downside is that you won't have a warranty. It's a trade-off. Something to think about. Number 3, check for buzzing. Now, this guitar doesn't have any buzz going on. This one, on the other hand, does. And this is a great example of guitars or the wood drying up, because it was fine when I reviewed it. That's fine, but over here, that's absolutely terrible. And I've tried to compensate with the setup, and that didn't work on this one. You would actually have to file down the frets, which is a slightly more costly operation. So check all around the neck for buzzing, or even worse, dead notes, where you basically get 2 notes that are the same, where you have an even higher fret. That's even worse. Number 4, weight. Now, I have here a Harley Benton Telecaster, which is a very nice guitar. This is the TE62. I earlier tried out the TE52, which was okay, but it was insanely heavy. So check out the weight of the guitar. You will be practicing a lot sitting down, but it's a good idea to practice while standing up as well. And if you're later going to play gigs with that guitar, if it's really heavy, that might be an issue. So check to see that it's not terribly heavy. I remember playing one gig with a really heavy Les Paul. It was a 4-hour gig, and my left shoulder, where the strap goes, I think my left shoulder hurt for about a month afterwards. That was not nice. Number 5, neck dive. What is neck dive? Well, it's basically when you have a guitar and you sit like this and it just does this on its own. Now, this doesn't have neck dive, but that means if you have neck dive that you have to support the guitar more with your fretting hand, which will mean that you're slightly more uncomfortable than if you don't have to support the neck, you can just play. This is especially a problem on SG type guitars. I don't have any of those here, but that's one thing to look out for. If you have a lot of neck dive, that can make learning a bit more difficult. Number 6, does it feel comfortable? Now this is a guitar that on the body, it doesn't feel very comfortable. Why? Because it's not contoured in any way. It's just a block of wood. This, on the other hand, has a belly contour and a contour here for your arm. Feels way more comfortable. Now there's nothing wrong with Telecasters, and also there are some Telecasters where you do get the contours that they've been kind of updated to more modern standards. The second thing, and even more important, is the neck. Does it feel comfortable? If it's really a thick neck, it might be that you'll have trouble reaching notes. Like the Telecaster I just had, that has a slightly thick neck to my liking, but it's not too bad. Or it might be that it's too thin, like certain Ibanez guitars, for instance, sometimes have that, where at least for me, I don't like the fact that they're too thin. You might prefer thin, or you might prefer really thick, heavy necks. Or fret size also comes into consideration. I use scalloped necks on most of my guitars, which means that they basically feel like they have enormous frets because you don't feel the fretboard at all. But there are different fret sizes, fret heights, so check a few different ones out to see what feels good for you. Now this goes back to try before you buy. So what can I say? Try before you buy. Number 7, pickups. Now this has 3 single coils. And the thing with single coils is that they make a lot of noise. That might be annoying, but you might like the sound of single coils. Maybe humbuckers are better for you. Like for instance on this Les Paul copy, they have a slightly higher output. They're also slightly thicker sounding, so if you want sparkly cleans, maybe single coils. If you want a slightly fatter lead sound, maybe humbuckers. There are also stacked humbuckers, P90s. What you're after is going to dictate which sorts of pickups you want to use. Now that being said, single coils are totally fine for heavy metal. It'll just sound a bit different and it'll be noisy. Stacked humbuckers might be something to look at. Like the neck pickup on this is a stacked humbucker. Now they're somewhere in between single coils and humbuckers, give you a kind of single coil type sound, but you don't have to deal with all the hassle of the noise. If you are looking to buy a guitar, or any piece of gear for that matter, I have a few links in the description for gear that I recommend in different price ranges and also the gear that I use. Those are affiliate links, so I will get some money off of those if you buy something that way. So maybe consider supporting the channel that way. If you don't want to, I'll have a video later on with some recommendations. And then you can maybe just buy something from those recommendations and not support the channel. And then we get to, well, this is maybe not something to consider as such. So I'll say this is 8A, which is looks. In a way, I think it's a totally valid thing to consider, because looks will persuade you or make you want to play the guitar more if it looks like something that you want to play. When the guitar is on a stand in your home, if it looks appealing, you'll be more drawn to it, and that will mean that you will play more, which in turn will just be a good thing. So looks are something that, yeah, I would say it's a valid thing to consider. Maybe not the most important, but still, I wouldn't dismiss it. And number 8B, or 9, another totally valid thing, and this was something I struggled with for quite a long while when I was starting out, and that was, do your idols play something similar. So if you're an Yngwie Malmsteen fan, something like this might be more down your alley than the Les Paul I just played, or the Telecaster I just played. If you're a Steve Vai fan, something like this will be more down your proverbial alley. That's not to say that you can't play a Strat if you're a Steve Vai fan, or that you can't play a Les Paul if you like semi-hollow jazz guitars, or even hollow body jazz guitars. You can certainly get by with quote-unquote wrong instrument for the job, but if you have a really clear vision of what you want, then that makes it so much easier to get the guitar. Now it might be that you can't find the exact thing, but there should be, it will give you a kind of indication in what direction to look. One last thing, which is purely for people with the whammy bar. If it does have a whammy bar, try it gently, and if it just goes horribly out of tune every time you look at the whammy bar, maybe try something else. It might be that you can fix that problem, but it might also be that there's something wrong, and especially if you're a beginner, it's something you don't want to be dealing with. If you want to check out some budget-friendly alternatives, there's a video here. Other than that, I hope you liked the video and join me on Patreon. You get access to all my music lessons and a bunch of exclusives. You can even take that stuff for free. There's a link in the description. Other than that, I hope you liked the video and I hope you have a nice day.